Christian soldiers marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Christ the royal master leads against the foe. Forward into battle, see his banners go. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Oh, for a faith that will not shrink, though pressed by every foe, that will not tremble on the brink of any earthly woe, that will not murmur or complain beneath a chastening rod, but in the hour of grief or pain will lean upon its God. A faith that shines more bright and clear when tempest rage without, that when in danger knows no fear, in darkness feels no doubt. Lord, give us such a faith as this, and then whate'er may come, we'll taste and hear the hallowed bliss of an eternal home. A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never-dying soul to save, and fit it for the sky, to serve the present age, my calling to fulfill. Oh, may it all my powers engage to do my Master's will. Arm me with jealous care, as in thy sight to live, and O thy servant, Lord, prepare a strict account to give. Help me to watch and pray, and on thyself rely, assured if I my trust betray, I shall forever die. Rise up, O men of God, have done with lesser things, give heart and mind and soul and strength to serve the King of Kings. Rise up, O men of God, his kingdom tarries long. Bring in the day of brotherhood and end the night of wrong. Rise up, O men of God, the church for you doth wait, her strength unequal to her task. Rise up and make her great. Lift high the cross of Christ, tread where his feet have trod, as brothers of the Son of Man, rise up, O men of God.
Beautiful.
Good evening.
Let's edify the saints with professionalism and
Shenanigans.
that was a spot on imitation of CJ.
Totally. Nailed that. Hey, Sister Reba. Good to see you.
But good to see you.
CJ decided to be ill today and slack off, so we got to imitate him.
That'll teach him to be ill.
Yeah, it should be. I'm trying to drag him in here. I'm about ready just to haul out and just tag him.
Well, you better let him be ill. We don't want that on stream.
Oh,
No.
the least he can do is come listen.
You didn't want any of them? What's wrong, dear? They too hot for you?
Reba says hi, Brother Levi and Shea. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah,
Hey,
we're
I was
just
gonna say,
what?
that white caramel or white chocolate caramel cappuccino goes really good in that coffee.
The cowboy coffee?
Yeah, the world's strongest.
Oh, yeah. I haven't had any more of that lately.
I put 1 tablespoon of that into my half cup. Oh, that was good. The two flavors mix really well together.
You actually brewed some of the world's strongest?
No, it was what you gave me. Excuse me. I didn't mean to burp on stream.
Oh, okay. Oh, so this is what you told me tastes good the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, the world's strongest coffee, that was pretty good by itself. But then you added that in there, and boy, I tell you what, that kicked that up a notch.
Yeah, I reckon as much. That should cover it.
I see you about 5 times.
I hope it comes across as ba-ding, 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 ba-ding. you were mentioned.
It didn't. You'd have to tag him 5 separate times.
I know how to do that.
I could repeatedly send the video to him. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
I know when to hold back.
That's good.
I could blow him out of the water.
So yeah, I'd probably put another coat on that. Are you saying you're done for the night? Okay, then you need to put another coat on that.
It's funny because now I have both of the prayers for the Lord's, but none of the taped ones.
Yeah, and the gray one's in here that Alyssia spilled water on.
Yeah. I was figuring the taped one, because we have multiple copies of that one.
You don't happen to know where that recipe for the wash is, do you? I wrote it down on an envelope or something.
Reba says, I'll do my best to stay awake. I'm feeling pretty rotten, but y'all boost me up.
Got to do something. Somebody better tag Sister T and get her in here.
Well, I already tagged her. I think I even sent it to her in Messenger, but I might be wrong. Anyways, give her a moment.
Lately.
Yeah, she has been. There we go. Got the Messenger side of the universe worked out.
Where's the media phone?
I don't know.
Why don't you go? His mom hidden her back away. Oy. Well, as we got started late, do we want to sing or do we just want to jump right in?
Oh, we may as well just jump right in.
Huh? Oh, well.
Act study!
We need to we need the recipe for that so that Alicia can put that on my toe. He probably did. Probably. Well, the one that she was pointing to, my dear.
And
no, on the top
I'm
one.
going to quote CJ, and I'm going to say tonight we will be studying in Acts study. So, which verse was I supposed to run through to? 7 or 9?
9.
Doing a wee bit of a review here over what we covered last time. We have Paul and his band. They're traveling. They stop over at Thessalonica, and there they find a synagogue. And Paul, like he normally did, he went, and what do we find him doing? We find him reasoning with them out of the scriptures that Christ needs to have suffered. So what's he doing? He is preaching the gospel here in Thessalonica in one of the Jewish synagogues. And like we have oftentimes, some believed and consorted with Paul and Silas, and they gained a whole bunch of Greeks and not a few chief women.
That means a lot.
Which means a lot. I was about to say that. Not a few chief women, a lot. And like we see a little bit of a jealousy or envy here, bruise with the Jews that didn't believe. And so what do? Well, they hatch a scheme and they take several lewd fellows or people with very low morals of the baser sort, as it says here, gathers basically a mob and sets the city in an uproar. Sounds perfectly reasonable to me. And they assaulted the house of Jason and sought to bring them out to the people. But they did not find Paul and Silas there with Jason. But they drew Jason and certain of the brethren unto the rulers of the city, crying that these have turned the world upside down are come hither also. These that have turned the world upside down are come here also. So we see a little bit of the reputation that Paul and Silas have right here. They're known for turning the known world upside down with their doctrine.
It wasn't just Paul and Silas.
Right.
It was anyone that was a Christian had that reputation, because Christianity by that time was moving. God was moving them out from under the shadow of Judaism into their own separate religion.
Yeah.
For the longest period of time, they had been viewed as a sect of the Jews, as in a sect of Judaism. And so that was the incubation, the baby period, if you will, of the church.
Gave them kind of a protected cover to grow under.
Right. And
now,
to mature. And now God's moving them out.
They've grown out of their little pot.
And just like we saw from the persecution that Paul himself began in Acts chapter 7 or 8, our brethren began to spread abroad, and as they spread abroad, they carried the message with them, and as they carried the message, then they turned the world upside down. And so remember that what we see kind of almost is like waves. You see the Jews going through all of Judea and Samaria, and then you see the advent of Cornelius, or the acceptance of the Gentiles through Cornelius happening. And suddenly the Jews are now beginning to carry the message into Syria and Damascus, and a little bit further into the southern reaches of Asia Minor. And then Paul and Barnabas goes out. And here comes this next wave, the wave that moves the gospel into the full continent of Asia Minor. And then Paul and Barnabas retreat back to Antioch, and they're there for a year or two or three. And then suddenly now we have Paul and Silas, and where they go? They go through all of Asia Minor, revisiting the churches that Paul had helped establish.
Boosting them.
And now they get up to the northern edge, and suddenly they're like, let's go over to Macedonia. So now we're invading the Grecian peninsula.
They're in Thessalonica now.
Well, that's still part of Greece.
Yeah. I'm just saying they're in Thessalonica right now. But we see oftentimes with the book of Acts how every time that the church is smashed with persecution, it grows. Instead of getting squashed out or down, it gets bigger. We just see how our brethren thrived back then underneath the weight of persecution. They were very bold.
And I think that's going to be kind of the theme, if you will, of the church. The more Satan tries to stop it, the more it grows. Because the more people view it as worth fighting for. And so what we have now has been a time of peace and prosperity. And what's happened? People have begun abandoning the church. And they have gotten comfortable in their apathy. So, yeah, suddenly we're starting to see more of a persecutorial attitude coming into play within the country. And so I think we're going to see a period of more growth.
I was thinking the other day on the analogy with my planter box. As y'all know, I got my seeds for the upcoming garden planted. And I was thinking how when these sprout, they're generally always leggy, but the moment they get put into the outside world with wind, they go flat if you're not careful. And they a lot of times die. And I was thinking about that. And a lot of the Christians that have grown up in this time of peace are just like the ones that got started indoors. The plants that got started indoors. They're leggy and they're tall, but the moment they're pressed with persecution or wind, they'll either fall down flat or they'll grow stronger.
And that's a really good analogy. And what you see then is that these that are leggy don't have the proper depth of roots.
Right.
So, hey, Sister Love, good to see you. We'll try to shout at you every once in a while, and Reba and you can shout at each other every once in a while, keep each other awake. We have two of the founding members of the Sleeping Sister sorority here.
Honoring the presidential members. CJ is just slacking.
But that's really a good analogy of what the rocky soil ones that Jesus talked about in the parable of the sower. The seed fell in the rocky soil and it sprang up, but it didn't have any depth of root. So when the persecution came, then suddenly they keeled over and died because they didn't have any root or depth of root. So, all right.
And by the way, as a side note, if you want your plants to not grow leggy, have a fan blowing on them. They'll grow up in the wind and they'll be stronger.
A slight wind.
Yeah, a small fan on a very low setting. It does not need a lot of wind. But anyways, that's beside the point. And so these lewd men of the Vaser sort end up drawing out Jason, along with the Jews, I'd reckon, and take him to the rulers of the city and proclaiming that these are they that have turned the world upside down, whom Jason hath received, and these all do contrary to the decrees of Caesar. So they're trying to play a little bit of the legal matters into here. And whereas they're not entirely wrong, that, yeah, saying that there is another king, one Jesus. And so we find that these people, they troubled the city and the rulers of the city. Troubled the people and the rulers of the city when they heard these things. And when they had taken security of Jason and of the other, they let them go. So that pretty much brings us up current.
They let Jason and certain of the other brothers that they drew into the
Rulers.
court, drew unto the rulers.
Mm-hmm. Dragged.
We mentioned the fact that the difference between those in Philippi and the magistrates in Philippi versus the rulers of Thessalonica. The one was a civil government versus the other, which was a military tribunal,
Yeah.
or judge, magistrate, tribunal rulers, as you might say. And so what they ended up doing when they take a security, they basically take it's kind of like releasing them on bond, or there's a pledge involved.
Is that kind of like when they charged the apostles not to speak in this name again? Would that be similar to releasing them on security?
No, because there again, they basically have to. It's like assessing court costs.
Oh.
Or damages because of the because of what was going on, of any damages or any hassle.
Taking the security of Jason. Well, that was helpful.
Try the ESV.
ASV. Well, that was helpful.
Now you see here
money as security. So they basically made Jason pay for their time.
Yeah, that's pretty much literally what it was like a court cost.
Yep.
I know. I heard what you said, my love. I don't care that it's their bedtime. They can come here like they always do. For some reason, I guess it was supposed to be something different.
Reba greets Darlene, and Darlene greets Reba. Says, "How are you doing, sister?"
Cuteness overload.
Cuteness overload.
Mm-hmm. Night, night. Sleep tight. Sweet. No, you need to say that right. Sweet. Where's your D? Dreams. Miss Mackenzie would not be happy to hear the way you're doing that stuff. Come on. Do it right. Love you. Full rest.
Come on, sweetie. You can do it. Reba says, "Night, sweet girls. God bless."
God bless. There you go. Night.
Night, sweet.
Night,
Night, Alicia.
Take that off, Alicia.
Bloop. I'm back.
She would just slipped on some Rice Krispies on the floor because Alicia spilled some and didn't clean it up. All right, so O'Shea, would you read 10 through 14, please?
10 to 13. Okay. And the brethren immediately sent away Paul and Silas by night unto Berea. Right? Berea?
Mm-hmm.
Looks right. Who, coming thither, went into the synagogue of the Jews. Those were more noble than those in Thessalonica,
You mean these?
in that they received the word with all readiness of mind, searching the scriptures daily, whether those things were so. Therefore many of them believed also of honorable women, which were Greeks, and of men, not of you. But when the Jews of Thessalonica had knowledge that the word of God was preached of Paul at Berea, they came thither also, and stirred up the people. And then immediately the brethren sent away Paul to go as it were to the sea, but Silas and Timotheus abode there still.
All right. So what we have here is the brethren at Thessalonica had kind of hidden away Paul and Silas because the Jews were coming to look for them. Or rather, the Jews thought that they were there at Jason's house. And because they weren't, after all this kerfluffle, well, the church there at Thessalonica sent Paul and Silas away so that they would be saved.
By night.
That's the reason why they sent them by night. They wanted to get them out of out of harm's way.
Easy to sneak away underneath the cover of night.
It is, and we notice, of course, that the Jews at Thessalonica did not know where Paul and Silas were.
They had the wrong house and everything.
In verse 10, we are not certain exactly when the brethren sent away Paul and Silas, whether it was immediately after. We're led to believe that it is actually immediately after all this with Jason being...
and the brethren immediately.
So we're pretty sure that's exactly when it happened. There is a slim possibility that it could have been before Jason and them.
Right. It's Jason gets home after emptying out his pockets and says, "All right, guys, you need to go."
So the brethren immediately send them away by night. So they're sneaking away, and they send them to Berea. Who, when they come to Berea, they find this synagogue of the Jews there.
That sound familiar?
Paul is still going to the Jews first at this point. Even though he is the apostle of the Gentiles, he still goes to the Jews first.
We see he found plenty of Jews there at the synagogue.
Well, he did. And no matter where he went.
Greeks went.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. Because it is so interesting that there were Greeks near.
Sister Love can't keep her eyes open. She is extremely deeply tired.
Yes, Sister Love, well, you go get some rest. There's always the replay, my sister.
Mm-hmm.
But, you have to keep up your strength to be able to handle Johnny and take care of his needs. And we do not fault you for that, my love.
No.
You go on, you take care of that first.
Go get your rest, dear sweet Sister Love.
And we pray for you and for Johnny. Stay strong. Get some sleep.
God bless. I better not do that, or that'll put Reba straight to sleep.
That's right. So Paul
Sam's
and
here.
Silas, yay! Sam finally arrived. So they find Jews there, but we're jumping the gun about the Greeks. So just wait our turn, wait their turn.
Yeah.
So they find the synagogue of the Jews, and what is so fascinating about Berea is the total opposite of attitude that they display. In chapter 17, verse 11, Berea, the Bereans will always have this commendation by God. These were more noble than those in Thessalonica in that they received the word with all readiness of mind. Their minds were open and ready to receive whatever the God was willing to show them
Take a
through the
moment
Apostle Paul and through Silas.
and
That,
picture that as being your title through history.
right. And
That's
they searched, they received that word with, they received the
mm-hmm.
word. Um, that means they listened to the point that they understood. They internalized that word and they were ready to obey it because they searched the scriptures daily whether what Paul and Silas were teaching them was true.
So we see they took action.
Well, that comes in the next verse as well.
Mm-hmm.
What we see in Acts 17:11, I want you to put as a cross reference 1 John chapter 4 and verse 1.
Editors, uppercase I.
Yep.
This John.
Chapter 4 and verse 1.
And then I reckon you want me to head there.
Well, of course.
That would be natural. Protocol, after all. 1 John 4:1.
Yep.
Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets are gone out into the world.
The Bereans did exactly that. They did not believe every spirit. They tried them, they tested them. And when we talk about spirit, we're talking about every being, every messenger. And so we have Paul and Silas coming to Thessalonica or to Berea and presenting to them doctrine. And the Berean Jews are searching the scriptures with open minds, ready to see and receive what was true. Now, because what they found was true, many of them believed, not just the Jewish men, but honorable women, which were Greeks. And not just the Grecian honorable women, but
And
men
of men.
too. So we see a multitude of people. And again, what is unique about Berea is this cohabitation between Jews and Greeks. Jews are typically taught to be to have nothing to do, as it were, with the not nothing to do, but have limited contact with the what's the word I'm looking for?
They tried to abstain from evil. And
Gentiles.
in that, Gentiles.
That is interesting. Berea, well watered. Okay, so the Jews are taught to have as little contact as in physical contact with the Gentiles, and they don't give their daughters to the Gentiles, and they don't take the Gentile daughters as their wives. They do exist. They do coexist. They do buy things off of the Gentiles, but of course, everything has to be kosher. They obviously can't be, buying unclean animals and what have you.
It's a very
Standoffish type of a scenario.
I
Yet,
had the word I was looking for. Stressed? No, that's not the word I was looking for.
if I may bring in a movie that you might have seen. Fiddler on the Roof does a very good job of portraying the dichotomy between the Jews and the Gentiles. For you have the Jewish settlement at Anatevka, Russia, and you have half the city being Jews and half the city being Gentiles. Half the city being Jewish that goes to the temple or the synagogue rather and does their prayers and stuff on the Sabbath. And then you have the other half that goes essentially across the street to the Catholic or the Russian Orthodox Church. And then you have, of course, the soldiers from Russia that come in to keep the peace, the police chief and stuff. So here in Berea, as you also saw earlier in Thessalonica, and you saw in Philippi, there is, to a degree, a sense of cohabitation wherein they both, the Jews and the Greeks, were together and learning from each other.
I just remembered the word I was looking for. It was a very strained relationship.
Strange, yes.
Strained.
Strained. Well, not here in Berea, it wasn't.
No, but in
between
general with Jews,
right? In the general, it was. Sam, I'm not going to tell you any more than
tradition.
If you want to know why the fiddler would fiddle on the roof, you must watch the movie. And it is actually a fairly decent movie. It is decent, I mean, for the, actually, I'm trying to remember. I don't think there was any cussing in that one at all. I'm pretty sure there wasn't.
Due to the time period is supposed to be said, then there shouldn't be.
But there was some drinking. And there was some lying that went on.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting window into the life of the Russian Jew, and especially at a time which I believe was set right around World War One. Yes, it would have had to have been right around World War One because the Tsars were still in power, and that was and the movie was set right about just before the turnover from the Tsar to the from the Tsar to the Bolsheviks or to Stalin. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. But these, however, were searching the scriptures daily. There was many beloved or believed. There was many honorable women. There was many honorable men of the Greeks.
But it's very interesting how they managed to convert a whole bunch of Greeks there in a Jewish synagogue. That's still kind of fascinating.
Well, and we're not necessarily told that it was always at the synagogue either.
Right, I suppose.
The synagogues were typically open, but we also remember that Paul had to find a way to support himself, which is why later on with Aquila and Priscilla, that's a spoiler alert, he worked. So Paul would have been in the marketplace, not just the synagogue. But you notice what it says in verse 11. They searched the scriptures how often?
Daily.
Daily. Not just on Sabbath, but daily. And so there was definitely preaching going on both in the synagogue as well as in the marketplace. So there you could see both of both the transitions and the conversions.
I was gonna say
so
the scriptures were pretty ready and available there in the synagogues, weren't they?
yes.
Yeah.
We're dealing with the Jewish scriptures, though, the Talmud.
Yeah.
And I finally found that word, which triggered my thinking of it. There was two Talmuds. There was the Babylonian Talmud, and then there was the Syrian Talmud, I believe it is. The Syrian one, of course, being the one that was, I think, the older of the two. I could be wrong.
I think Syria captured them, several times, didn't they?
That has really nothing necessarily to do with it.
Okay. I was wondering if they were just written during the times they were captured. Syrian and Babylon sounds like times they were captured.
But I think it's from the places that they were written.
I see.
Anyhow, but there was two different Talmuds, and one is more exhaustive than the other.
I always find that amusing when they use that in reference to a book. Strong's exhaustive coordinates. Man, it's so exhausting to work through that.
Well, it was also exhausting to put it together.
Yeah, well,
so there was two Talmuds, and the Talmuds contained the Torah, which is the books of Moses, the Pentateuch, as we would call it, specifically the law of Moses. And then they would have the various other writings of the rabbis as well as the chronicles, etc. The kings, the prophets, the Psalms, and things like that.
Psalms have been a very important book to them, wouldn't it have been?
It would have been, because those were primarily of David as well as songs of the captivity. So they were searching these scriptures. That's what they were looking through. And Paul was giving them, Paul and Silas and Timothy, or Timothy, as CJ would say, Timotheus. It's Timotheus. Why it would be Timotheus instead of Timotheus.
Oh, that's bad. Timotheus. Anyways,
but what we're seeing, though, is that these would have been providing ample evidence from these scriptures of Jesus, why he had to come, what he accomplished, what he fulfilled, and what happened to him, why he was the king, why they should be listening to him, why they should be obeying Jesus. The books of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John have not been written yet, although one or two of them were in the process. So we see that they have been reasoning, and we finish up the last two verses of the section by the Jews from Thessalonica finally hearing that Paul and his company are over in Berea.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were still alive at this time, right?
Pretty sure.
In order for him to write the books.
Luke definitely was.
Yeah. I was just wondering.
What? Same the Jewish publication that we have today. I'm I don't know.
Was that the same?
The Judea, the Jews today, those that are still practicing Jew, typically will go and use both of the one or the other of the Talmuds.
Is that the same?
They don't ascribe to the Christian New Testament. They still hold to the Old Testament.
They still run Psalms and all the prophets and books of the law.
So the Jews of Thessalonica, they find out that Paul and Silas and company are over in Berea. So what do? They pick up and they rush over to Berea.
This almost has a comedy sort of vibe right there.
What can I find in my quick Bible?
Is that the same you can find in your quick Bible? The same Old Testament? I reckon. Is that what you're asking, Sam?
The difference, I think, between what we have for an Old Testament and what they have, or the Talmud, is the fact that we don't have all the non-inspired writings of the rabbis to go along with the Old Testament. I'm not sure if I can find. I haven't looked for the Hebrew Bible, the Talmud in Quick Bible. I'm not going to try to go out of my way to find it either. But anyhow, let's stay on topic, Sam. If you want to find the Talmud, go right ahead.
Good luck.
But we're here to study Acts, so let's study Acts, shall we? So they come to Berea, they stir up the people, and because of what's happening, the brethren turn around and send Paul and Silas away, or Paul away, as if it were to sea. So they say, okay, you need to go make it look like you're going by sea and get out of here. We don't want you to come to trouble. But Silas and Timotheus still remained in Berea.
It was almost as if they were using Paul as a decoy. Look, there goes Paul! And they all run off, and then that leaves Silas and Timothy still there to preach.
If we were to go, let's go back in time, as it were, to Acts chapter 14.
That's almost what it seems like.
And Acts chapter 14, we're going to go to verse 10. Pick up the reading, verse 10. Let's go to verse 11.
And when the people saw what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying, in the speech of Lycaonia. Is it Lycaonia?
Lycaonia.
Lycaonia. The gods are come down to us in the likeness of men. And they called Barnabas Jupiter, and Paul Mercurius.
Mercurius. That'd be the Greek form of the word Mercury.
Right.
Mercurius.
I know what they're trying to say. Just don't understand the Roman part of it. Mercurius. Because he was the chief speaker. Then the priest of Jupiter, which was before their city, brought oxen and garlands into the gates, and would have done sacrifice with the people.
Okay. Now, why do they call Paul Mercurius?
Because he was the chief speaker, as it says right there.
Okay, so he's the
most
chief
outspoken.
speaker. So when Paul and Silas come to Berea, when they come to Thessalonica or Philippi, who's the one doing the most of speaking?
Paul.
Paul.
That was his nature.
So Paul is viewed then as the leader, would you not say?
Yeah.
So if Paul is being viewed as the leader, wouldn't it be more?
They're playing hunt the leader here.
Yeah, wouldn't it make more sense to send the leader away? Because if the leader is seen to go away, then the followers are given a little bit more leeway while the troublemakers follow the leader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In theory,
Sam
the problem
says
would go away.
Sam says we're using the Bible. We're traveling to a place. Cannot say time machine. Yeah, I can. We're going back in time. And that goes back to your philosophy on books. See, I have a very great imagination.
Yeah.
God blessed me with one. I can take a journey when I open any book. Usually, if I open a very dry, sciencey type book, I take a journey to Slumberland. But
Get to go visit the back of your eyelids.
Right. Most of the time, if I open a book, I get engrossed in the book. The characters, the place that they're at, it's real to me.
Especially if the writer doesn't write.
Yeah, especially if the writer knows how to write. It really does. It becomes real to me. So I can take a journey and never leave the place that I'm at.
I saw someone say the other day, he said, reading a book is staring at the remains of a dead tree while hallucinating.
I like that. We should tag Vera in that. We're just watching its past life. You don't believe in reincarnation? You've never seen a book.
Reba is laughing her head off over there on Facebook.
Okay. So let's get back on topic here. Do we have enough time to make it through another few verses? I think we do.
Well, at least through these two that we have. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go from 15. Oh, hey, yeah. I love this one.
Anthems.
15 through...
Well, let's see here. We have 10 minutes.
Let's do 15 through 18.
Okay. Sounds like a good stopping point.
Yeah, it should be, because then I can pick up in 19 through the end of the chapter next week.
And they that conducted Paul brought him to Athens, and receiving a commandment unto Silas and Timotheus, CJ, for to come to him with all speed, they departed. Now, while Paul waited for them at Athens, his spirit was stirred in him when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry. Therefore disputed he in the synagogue with the Jews, and with the devout persons, and in the markets daily with them that met with him. Then certain philosophers of the Epicureans. Epicureans and of the Stoics encountered him, and some said, "What will this babbler say?" Others some, "He seemeth to be a seer forth of a strange He seemeth to be a setter forth of strange gods, because he preached unto them Jesus in the resurrection.
Okay, so what we have is some,
Athens.
people, brethren sent Paul away to go as it looked by sea. And he's in the company with other brethren. They take him and bring him on his way to Athens. I wish we had CJ's maps here so you can kind of see the route that this is going, but we don't. So, um, so they go, they get to Athens, and they're going to leave Paul here. Paul sends a command back to Silas and Timotheus, and he gives a note to these guys and says, "Give this to Silas and Timothy, and have them with all speed come here." And so those brethren were all the way back to Berea with that message. Now, Paul's sitting in Athens waiting for Silas and Timothy to catch up in verse 16. And while he does this, he's viewing the sights of this great city. Athens was it contained one, I believe, of the greatest. I'm not sure if it was one of the seven wonders of the world. Anyhow, it contained the temple of Diana. I think it's Diana.
Antheno.
Athena.
Yes, Athena.
Athena. Not Diana, Athena.
She was the spokes god of the city.
And patron god of the city.
Yeah. Which is an interesting story on that one.
But the temple for Athena was very beautiful.
Yes.
Very large, very grand. But Paul is wandering about this great city, which is also a Roman city, by the way, colony. And as he's wandering about the city, he sees all these idols. Can you bring that back up?
Yeah, I'm working at it. I messed stuff up. Okay. Boop.
There we go. His spirit was stirred in him because he saw the city wholly given to idolatry. That doesn't bode well for the Jews, does it?
No.
The very first commandment of the law of Moses says, "I am the Lord your God, you shall have no other gods before me." Second commandment is, "You shall make no graven image." Right? Oh, you're bringing up another one, huh?
Yeah. And now I have to figure out how to mute this one. Ow. Speaker. Does that help?
I don't know.
It did.
Might. Well, if you remove it from stream, it should anyway. Sam thinks that, yes, it was one of the seven wonders of the world.
Here you all go.
I can't say that very well with any authority on that, Sam. I don't believe the Corinthian letter was written from Athens.
So here's Berea, and here's Athens.
We can't see anything.
You can't?
No.
It's too small.
I see Berea.
Well, that's as close as I can zoom in. Here's Berea. Here's Athens.
Yeah, but we can't see your... Oh, there's your mouse.
You can. I was going to say, I think you can see the mouse.
It's very small. You'd have to make it bigger. You can actually make the mouse pointer bigger. But anyway, Berea's in the upper left-hand corner, almost a direct line from Berea to Athens, which Athens is right above the E in the Aegean Sea. um, the first E in the Aegean Sea. So we had Thessalonica up there. We see Philippi in almost the direct top middle of the screen of the
With
map.
Neapolis.
Amphipolis. There's Neapolis, Philippi, Amphipolis.
I said Neapolis. So that's Neapolis.
Yes.
Okay.
The Greek word is polis, meaning city.
I see.
It's also, by the way, where we get politics.
I see.
Kind of the same root. Anyway, polis means city.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have words like metropolis. But Neapolis, Philippi, Amphipolis, Apollonia, Thessalonica. So they went from Philippi through Amphipolis over to Thessalonica. Then from Thessalonica to Berea. Berea, they sailed down to Athens.
Which is not too far from Corinth.
No, it's not. So what we find now is we went from...
That's quite a journey.
It is. We went from the Macedonian side down to the Achaia side of the Grecian peninsula or the Grecian country. So what we see is Paul stirring up, his spirit being stirred by all these idols, this idol worship. And so he disputes in the synagogue with the Jews.
That sounds
So
familiar.
You see him go in there, and he kind of chews them out. But he reasons from the scripture. And then he begins reasoning with the devout persons and in the marketplace daily with anyone that would meet with him. With anyone that he met, he disputed. He talked religion.
Yep. With the devout persons.
It would have fallen under the Roman provinces with Roman rules, and because it was like one of the key cities within the area. So if you want to think of it in terms of Roman, you would think of it as like like the county seat or like the capital of the state. Corinth was just simply a colony. That would have been more of the county seat for Corinth, whereas Athens was kind of like more of a state capital. Just to kind of reason it out. So he's disputing with these guys, the Jews, with the devout people, and in the market with any that met him. What?
Just looking at some of these other maps. Berea is not too far from Mount Olympus.
No, it isn't.
Which I never knew where Mount Olympus exactly was. Now I do.
So while he's disputing, while he's talking and trying to convert people, presenting the gospel daily, verse 17, verse 18, we come back to his modus operandi, which is that Paul would go to the synagogue, and then he would talk with anybody that would meet him daily in the marketplace or wherever. So certain philosophers, some of the Epicureans and the Stoics, encounter him. This is significant. The Epicureans and the Stoics were two different philosophies, usually at odds with one another. And I believe they were, at least one of them dealt with the resurrection. O'Shea, can you look in the commentaries and see what you find on Epicureans and Stoics?
Do, 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 do. Commentaries.
Yeah,
So,
left-hand side, right there about Acts.
and this is what, verse 18. That's 1 through 34.
You got Darby there. I would does Hampton's got something on this, so why don't you pop up to him?
Hampton. Oh, come on. I used to know where it
Over to
was.
the left.
Oh,
That's
there
the
it
right
is.
road. There you go. All right, we're good there.
Yay! Discuss the gospel with them. Epicureans.
Philosophers who decided they wanted to see what the babbler was talking about foreign gods. Oh wait,
Huh.
well, that didn't help.
Thanks, Hampton. Adam Clark.
Clark or Matthew Henry, concise.
Yikes! That's.
I didn't want 19.
Of course, he picks up right there in 19.
That's because you have 19 highlighted.
That is, I do. 18. Certain philosophers of the Epicureans
Okay,
who
so we
acknowledge
have
no gods
so they were atheists
except in name,
or
and they denied.
maybe not so much atheist as deists.
They denied that they exercised any government over the world or its inhabitants.
So they believed in God or gods, but not that they did anything in the world.
Right.
They were more humanist or human deists. Deist, humanist. Anyway, keep going down to the Stoics.
Gratification of the appetites. No sense. And of the Stoics, these did not deny the existence of the gods, but they held that all human affairs were governed by fate. They did not believe that any good was received from the hands of their gods, and considered, as
Seneca
asserts, that any good and wise man was equal to Jupiter himself. Both these sects agreed in denying the resurrection of the body, and the former did not believe in the immortality of the soul. Well, that's nice. Gives us when Epicurus, the
about
founder of the
3663 BC.
BC. In the morning, apparently. AM.
AM is for. I don't remember now what AM is. It is, but it is actually a. I keep wanting to say anti-meridian, but that's not it. I don't know. It's BC.
BC.
Before Christ, 341. So basically 341 years before Christ.
So this was a 300-some-year-old sect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Well.
Okay, so what we're seeing then is that they meet or hear Paul, and Paul is conversing about Jesus, about the resurrection, about God, and what God demands of people. And these guys are like, what will this babbler say? Others like, this guy is setting forth a strange God.
I imagine they were used to having babblers.
We need to hear. you're kind of right, because verse 20, look at verse 21.
It just seems like it. Spent their time in nothing else but either to tell or to hear something new thing.
The Epicureans and the Stoics spent most of their time on Mars Hill in the Areopagus doing nothing but telling tales.
And gossip.
No, not necessarily gossip.
Hmm.
Some of it's gossip, yes, but they were mainly arguing back and forth over doctrine. Which doctrine was better? Which
Mm-hmm.
philosophy was better? Um, and so,
So this was basically rabbis gone to bad.
you could say that there was pretty much nothing religious about them.
Yeah. Just
Uh,
arguing for the sake of arguing. And the
they were
appearance of being
philosophers.
smarter.
They were philosophers. They thought that they basically had nothing better to do than to sit around and think, and spew out whatever thought came to their mind.
A man who sits and thinks all the time has nothing to think about except for thoughts.
So, and that's what they are. So let's end there at verse 18. We're going to pick up at verse 19 next week, where they bring him set them before the entire Areopagus, before everybody that's there, and yeah.
So we leave Paul, in the eyes of these two groups, seen as a babbler and a setter forth of strange gods.
And yet he was reasoning with the Jews, with
Everyone at this
the
point.
devout people, and in the market daily. So anyone who considered themselves devout, regardless of whether they were Jews or Gentiles,
Mm-hmm.
and with any that he met in the marketplace daily, he was disputing, he was talking, he was conversing, and that is how he came to the attention of the Stoics and the Epicureans, and was
Oh.
invited to probably the one place that had the best or the most impact within that city. Can anyone else but me, wake up, Reba, see the hand of God working in this?
Oh, I see it all throughout it. He
And
gets kicked out from one place to another only to spread more gospel.
that's the thing. In all the persecution, trials, and tribulations that Paul and company went through, that our first century brethren went through, they literally grew by leaps and bounds when they stopped focusing upon the world and focused their attention and energy upon serving God.
Paul, he could have stopped and said, "Nobody likes me. I'm always being ran around." But he didn't.
And you and I both know that there is a certain energy that comes with having to dodge people that want to kill you.
Yes. You feel really motivated at that
Right. But what really, and again, what really gets me about our first century brethren is the fact that they didn't pray that the persecution would end.
No.
Oh, no. They prayed that they might be even more bold.
That they could use it.
What are we praying for? There's a nugget for your noggin.
Sam says, of course. Sister Reba says, amen. Sam says, can talk after this stream.
Sam wants us to invite him in to talk after the stream. I think.
Oh, Sam wants backstage. Is that what it is?
Speaking of after the stream, it is our hope and prayer that you have found something of use in our stream tonight that you can take and draw you closer to God in your daily walk. That way, whether we wake to serve God tomorrow here on this earth, or we wake to serve him up there, you know where we'll be, because we'll see you then. God bless.
Thank you all for being here. It's, as always, a privilege to see you all and your comments. Thank you, Reba, for not going entirely to sleep. And you're very welcome. I've certainly grown a little bit. Feel as if I know a little more. Till we meet again, God bless you all. Love you. Bye-bye.